It's brought down the story in the book on Rebbitzin Batsheva Kanievsky, Aleh HaShalom, who was considered the mother of Klal Yisrael. It's included, I think, in Sipurei Tzadikim. She was seeped in Torah and she understood Ratzon Hashem. She prayed for people. She gave eitzes for people. And the story goes as follows. There was a tour that was coming from Tel Aviv where they took girls who are completely not frum. And somehow, it was some kind of a kiruv tour. And part of the thing was to go through Bnei Brak and to meet Rebbitzin Kanievsky. There was a girl there that was wearing very little clothing. It was a hot day. It's hot in Bnei Brak, hot in Tel Aviv. And they don't know the difference, So she was wearing just like, open top, open here, really not tsanua. Rebbitzin Kanievsky, what does she do? What did tzaddikim do? Baal Shem Tov says, "Atzadik hagodol b'yoser." The bigger the tzaddik, yochel lehoiv, could love a rasha hagodol b'yoser. The bigger the rasha. A small tzaddik, he says, can only love small rishoyim, but a big tzaddik can love big rishoyim. Look at the Baal Shem Tov, and that's the Chazon Ish to be mekarev, and that's the way all tzaddikim work. So she goes to this girl. There must have been other girls there also as part of a tour, but she took one of them. And she put her arm around her, and she's walking from Letterman Shul back into her house. Now, it's interesting also, I was Zoicha when I went there with my daughter, who was, before she was married, 14, 15 years ago, and she picked my daughter to walk from her house. They went to Daven Mincha together, down the stairs with her arm around my daughter. It was so special. She was in seminary, but here now she has her arm around the girl whose shoulder is bare and not wearing clothing, showing her ahava. What do small-minded people do when they come and they see some people who are not appropriate? They yell at them, they scream at them, they look down at them. You're not dressing appropriate. This girl was not appropriate, not because she's not dressing tsanua for Tel Aviv. She doesn't know better. But you're going to a big rabbi, you don't know how to put on a shawl, you don't know how to be appropriate. I just saw a not-from couple in Eretz Yisrael that came to be Menachem Avel, a family, and it was in the news. It was a famous person. And I noticed that the wife of this famous politician, she was wearing short sleeves. It was open over here. And I was wondering, you're going to a Haredi thing. Why don't you? I also looked at it like that, like zushtel, conform. But people don't do that always. Some people, they're very healthy. They can think that out and they can do that. Here, the idea wasn't to tell the Tel Aviv girls, you're not good enough for these people. The idea was to say, you are good enough for these people and they will bond with you. And who's the best person to do that? Tzaddik hagodol b'yoser, tzaddikus hagodol b'yoser. Rebbitzin Kanievsky, who grew up holiness, the holy of the holy. Say when she was a little girl, they saw that her tefillas were mekuyim. When she was a little girl, her parents are Bli Yashiv, Martin Bli Yashiv and his wife. Her grandfather's the tzaddik of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Levine. Like real pure kedusha tahara can go and put their arm around somebody who's not tsanua and not look down at them. And that's actually what draws them in to say, wow. If everybody did that, there wouldn't be such a fight between the Chilonim and the Charedim. If all the Chilonim felt love, felt Ava, there wouldn't even be Chilonim. Reb Gershon Edelstein Zatzal said that if we really cared, he says Tefillah works to be mekarev those who are not from. You can daven for your own Yiddishkeit. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says you should daven for your own Yiddishkeit. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter says you could also daven for somebody else's Yiddishkeit. And Moran, Rav Gershon Edelstein, Zatzal, continuation of the Chazon Ish, a Talmud of the Chazon Ish, who the Chazon Ish said on him, he doesn't even have a Shminish of Gaiva. He's supposed to have 1/64 of Gaiva. He's supposed to have. He said he doesn't even have that. And he told, the Chazon Ish Zatzal told Reb Chaim Kanievsky Zatzal to learn with Reb Gershon. Reb Gershon was older, and he told Reb Chaim, learn with him. Can you imagine what we're talking about? Can you imagine that was Reb Gershon Zatzal? And he says, if we would all the Charedim would daven from the depths of our heart for all the Chilonim, anybody not from, they would all do tshuva. Our fault. We're busy. We don't care. I don't know. That's what he said. So anyway, she's walking with this girl. And her arm is around her. And comes a kanoi. Really, a kanoi is someone, like we said, is very low. He's really a lowlife. He's very frum, but he's tzaddik hakotam b'yoser. And he starts yelling and being mavayish this girl. Go back to Tel Aviv. You don't belong here. How could you come like this, dressed like this? Choyti yamachti. And tzaddikim were able to tolerate all kinds of sins. They could tolerate Chilul Shabbos, they could tolerate Natznius, they could tolerate eating on Yom Kippur. Rebbitzin Kanievsky was tolerating everybody, women who went to her, anybody, and tzaddikim also. Reb Chaim, we know was able to chachmas apartzof. He knew what's going on in somebody's face. Story within a story of a story. It's a very cute story. That there was a lot of money given to Reb Chaim Kanievsky for Kupat Ha'ir, and somebody stole over 100,000. I don't know if it was dollars or shekel, 100,000. So they called the police, and the police came to check everything out. And somebody went over to Reb Chaim and said, Reb Chaim, you know chachmas apartzof. You could tell on someone's face who the ganef is. Why don't you just tell us? What do we need the police for? Why don't you just tell us who the ganef is? So Reb Chaim, with his trademark humor and smile, he says, "Du weißt wiffel ganovim drehen sich da?" He goes, "You know how many ganovim are drains that are in this place?" So anyway, he knew everything, right? Rebbitzin Kanievsky was so disturbed that she told this guy, how could you be mevayish somebody barabim? V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. Which is interesting that she considered this tinik shenishba, a part of reacha, part of that you're over reacha. V'ahavta l'reacha kamoicha. You're being mevaza barabim. And she was shaking, and she was so upset. And she told him, I'm going to tell you something I never told anybody. You are not welcome in my house. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now, it's very interesting. Somebody said, so if you could accept Chilul Shabbos, which is Ka'akum L'Chol Davar, how come you can't accept someone who's Mavayish somebody barabim? We believe in acceptance. Tzaddikim could accept everything besides you being judgmental that you're better than somebody else, and they couldn't tolerate. And I think maybe Pshat could be, this is my own, I don't know if it's true, but it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem can dwell within people who sin. But by a Balgaiva, it says, Hashem says, I can't bring the Shekhinah, I can't tolerate someone who's a Balgaiva. Someone who's ranking somebody else out and giving mussar to someone else thinks he's better than them. It's Gaiva. So maybe that's what it is. That's why maybe tzaddikim, they can also handle what HaKadosh Baruch Hu can handle. And they can't handle someone who's a Balgaiva to go ahead and think that, you're being so judgmental. You don't know what their story is, how they grew up, and you're giving mussar to somebody else. Mussar is for yourself. The Nesiv Shalom says, mussar and chasidus, when you learn it, all of a sudden people I learn a little mussar and I get angry at everybody else. You just start shmir salash and you start realizing what everybody else is doing wrong. You start, a person who's a Batsheva, I don't talk during davening. No, he starts getting angry at everybody else. You learn some chasidus and you say, how could you do that? And how could you do this? He says, mussar and chasidus is for you, to make yourself better, not to look down on other people. There's a story in Raising Royalty. I forgot who the tzaddik was. There was a bachur in yeshiva that he used to go ahead. He had a minute. He started Shabbos 2 hours before Shabbos. Whenever Shabbos was, 2 hours before, he would come into the Beis Medrash and he learned for 2 hours until Kabbalah Shabbos. I think it was the Alter from Kelm, but I'm not sure. I think it was. And buy the book, you'll see it, Raising Royalty, wherever fine books are sold. Over 700 stories in the first one, and the second one's even better. Working on the third, and Mitzvah Hashem, it'll be a big series. But anyway, he calls him the boy. I mean, what could be better? Everybody's running around the last minute, coming in barely to Shabbos. This bacher 2 hours before sits and learns to be Makabel Shabbos with so much Kedusha. He asks the boy, he says, tell me, when you're in Beis Medrash and you're learning those 2 hours before Shabbos, how do you look at other people? When you see these boys running around, showering, shaving, whatever they're doing, right? How do you look at them? He said, I feel so Shabbosdik already. I look at them like Kemat, like they're Mechal Shabbos. Because it's like I feel so into it. I'm so there that it seems to me like they're desecrating the holiness already. And he said, if that's so, it's better you should not learn. You should be Mavatal your Seder. If your learning is causing you to look down at a Jew, better not to learn. This is not me. This is 100 years ago. Rebbitzin Kanievsky was so disturbed that she said, "You're the only person I'm going to tell this to. You are not welcome in my house." It goes more than that. She was shaking. She was so upset. She went into a meeting of Chaim Kanievsky. Was in a meeting. She just busted in and she went to Reb Chaim and she said, "I'm so upset. How could it be a neshama comes to me for chizuk and gets embarrassed? It's like my responsibility." They could not calm her down. It says in the book that they had to give her medication to calm her down, and they lied her down. Her blood pressure was boiling. How could you treat someone like this? So you're having a simcha, and your kid is coming, not dressed sneeze, or you go somewhere, and you see someone not dressed sneeze, and your reaction is to talk about them. When they see when you're talking, and not go over and give a big hug. These people need your arm around them. These people need you to act like the mother of Klal Yisrael, like Rebbitzin Batsheva, Aleh Shalom. We have to learn from tzaddikim. Put your arm around them. I mean, not if you don't know them and it's not appropriate, but you can be warm. "Hi, how are you? You look amazing. You look beautiful. Good to see you." If you don't feel comfortable saying you look amazing, even though, we disagree, but it's good to see you. And the parents, you have to walk on each side of this kid and you have to look around. And if you see somebody shooting darts, it says that the eagle is the highest bird. So it's scared only. There's nobody going to come on top and attack it and steal its baby, only from arrows. They know. So they put the baby on top. And that's what Jewish parenting is. We take the arrows. Those looks that people give are arrows. And they're going to hit your kid. Now, I know of kids that I know personally that went running out of simchas. They finally came to a simcha where we want them to come and feel part of the family, feel part of Klal Yisrael, and dance and everything. And somebody gave a look and they went running out. One girl ran out, went to a dealer. She was clean for 6 months from heroin. She went and she stuck a needle of heroin into her. She wanted to die. She was in so much pain because someone shot at a bow and arrow by looking at them. Don't judge. We have to control ourselves. This is the sign of our dar. Of all the people that think that we're the good guys, don't be a Russia. Don't look down on other people. Also, it's brought down in many Sfarim. Again, you can look at Raising Royalty. For many Sfarim, that the way that we judge other people is the way Hashem judges us on Yom Hadin. We also do things that are not right. Are we going to get rachamim, or are we going to get arrows and din? When they play the video, you could have two people who do the same avera, and one person is going to get din, and the other one is going to get rachamim, and it's based on the way you judge other people. Kedushas Levi says it, and many other Sfarim say it. And sometimes Hashem sends us a situation because He knows that you're going to get judged for something, and He wants to give you rachamim. He gives you a situation so that way you can judge favorably. When you judge favorably, you get judged favorably. Let's not give up on that opportunity. Let's not think that everybody's bad and everybody go back to Tel Aviv, go back to your house, go back. No, when we see somebody in shul, we had a girl who after 2 years finally came to a family simcha. She was not dressed appropriate. And somebody felt that she has to represent God. And she went over to her and she told her, "This is the way you come. You don't realize you're embarrassing your parents. And people think that this is going to work. People open their mouth and they think that it's going to work. Did it ever work? If you go to that person and the person above them gives them Mussar, Mussar works on anybody. Shmuel Birnbaum told Zatzal, told Ramosha, till you leave Shlitas and Zayin Gesund. 50 years ago, he said, I can't give Mussar to anybody. 50 years ago, he said, it's a brach and a dar. Before everybody knew, it's a broken dar. Mussar doesn't work. Look at all the stuff that I send out. 200 years ago, the Pele Yoetz wrote that in our day, 200 years ago, more than 200 years ago, Mussar doesn't work. You can only go with good. And look at what he writes about that, about the schus that you get by going with good. Let's all act like Rebbitzin Batsheva Kanievsky. And we see people. Let's act like all the Gedolim. Her grandfather, Baya Levine, he was walking outside and he saw an ex-Talmud of his, and the Talmud kept on avoiding him. So he ran after him and he said, "My dear son, why are you avoiding me?" And the Talmud said, "Rebbe, I'm embarrassed to see you because I'm not wearing a yarmulke on my head. Rabbi Levine was very short, and he looked up and he said, don't you realize I'm very short and I can only see up to your heart? These are tzaddikim that we have to emulate. Zchusam yagan aleinu.